for your parents when they first got back to Vashon after the camps?
They were glad and grateful to be back. There was a hired hand, a Filipino by the name of Mac Garcia, who had worked for our folks about 6 years prior to the war. And before we left for the camps, we asked him to move into our home to watch things. It was a good thing because some of the homes were burned and bombed, but ours wasn't because he lived there. And it was Shattuck, who was the deputy sheriff on the island, who sort of became the, I don't know what you call it, a person who sort of watched these various homes, and ours was one. The place where we were fortunate is that we had a hired hand by the name of Mac Garcia, who had worked for us about 6 years prior to the war. And I think my folks are pretty good to him, gave him a place to live and paid him well. And so when we were ready to leave, we asked Mac to move into our home. It was a good thing we did because some of the homes were burned and bombed.
Do you know whose house got burned? Because we did read about.
I don't remember. See, Miyoshi, Mishiro. I get these two families mixed up. But you know, when you go along the Vashon Highway, past Center, and then it starts to head down that hill, right there was a farm. Let's see, Miyoshi or Mishiro, I don't. There's a hill, and there was a farm, a strawberry farm down there. And that home became the place where many of the Japanese families stored their worldly goods. Unfortunately, at some point, somebody set fire to that, and all the families who put their things there lost everything. But at our place, you know, we had asked Mac to move into our place, and so
It looked like, kept your house safe.
Right.
Because somebody was living there.
That's right.
Do you know, you said that Sheriff Shattuck was sort of the overseer in your place. Do you remember what other Vashon families made an agreement with him to watch their kids?
I really don't know that for sure. I can assume that because our family entrusted our place to him, that other families did as well. But, you know, I don't have any evidence. I have no way of knowing. I can see where these people lived, but I have no firsthand knowledge of the relationship between these families and whoever was to take care of their place.
So it was the Miyoshi farm was right there at Morgan Hill. You know where you come around the
Yes,
farm?
yeah,
Miyoshi's farm
right.
was right there.
That's right.
That was the one, and they had two boys
Yes,
in the service as well.
right. That's right.
Do you know who else? I think there were 2 or 3 other families who stored their furnishings and personal effects in that house. Do you know who those other families were?
Let's see. Was there a family by the name of Miyoshi?
Yeah, Miyoshi
Mio-
owned the farm. Yeah, Miyoshi owned the farm. There was another, I'm going to look through this list.
You know, I don't really know who who stored all their things there.
Right, yeah. Because I've heard that there were two or three families that stored their things in the Miyoshi house.
Yeah,
And then when it burned,
they lost everything.
Miyoshi's, but everybody lost.
That's right, that's right. And I think the Yoshidas was one of them. Yoshidas had, let's see, Haru, Toyoko, Shigeko, Kike. They had 4 daughters, and Shigeko and I were about the same height. She was 1 year ahead of me, and we used to take Japanese dancing lessons from Mrs. Nishiori. And it was at Tule Lake. I remember we were asked to do a dance. So Shigeko and I, we borrowed some kimonos from some people from Tacoma who took their kimonos to camp. That was the last thing that my folks would want to do. But anyway, so what was your question? I forgot.
I'm trying to figure out who all stored their goods
Oh,
in the Miyoshi house when it was burned. Because we know there were 2 or 3 families.
I think so.
But I've never been able to figure out who actually.
I can guess. Yoshida's would be one. Mishiro's might be another one. And they were more, Yoshida's was more toward, you know where Cove Road? Yes, and you remember Gorsuch Road goes down? I think the Yoshidas lived on that Gorsuch Road, I think. There was a family, gosh, this is going way back,
way
you
back.
know?
I know, we're
It's back
stretching
there
your
somewhere,
memory.
right?
Mishiro. I get those 2 families mixed up. But there was a bunch that put their things in that home where the Vashon highway goes and then, starts down. And right there was a family, and I don't remember if it was Miyoshi or Mishiro.
Yeah, I think that's a Miyoshi.
Miyoshi,
That's
wasn't
where
it?
we have the Miyoshi
I think
home.
a lot of families
Right.
put their things there, but it was burned,
Right.
I think.
Was maybe the Takasuka family one of those?
Could be. Yeah.
I'm just looking at it.
Yeah. Takatsukas and Otsukas all lived right around that area.
So did you know Harold Burton, who burned the houses?
Harold Burton. Yes, I remember Harold Burton.
He played football with Yunichi.
Yes. And I remember we used to wait for the school bus on that corner where the Vashon Highway, the road goes down toward Beale Greenhouse. We used to wait for the bus there. What was your question?
Oh, if you knew Harold Burton,
Harold Burton.
he was in high school with Yunichi.
Harold Burton, I remember him. He would wait at that same corner where we waited, and I remember him whirling me around, and I'd get dizzy, and and then she would get mad at for doing that to his little sister. Harold Burton went into the Army and went to Hawaii. And I wonder, I had a letter from him and telling me, he sent me some pictures of flowers in Hawaii. And I sent him a picture of me in the 8th grade or something. But I think he must have died wasn't there a big bombing of the Japanese planes came?
Yeah. Now Harold lived through the war.
Yeah.
He died, I think, in the 1970s or early 1980s.
So he survived.
He survived the war.
He survived. I didn't really know whether he did or not, because I remember receiving a letter from him. He was at Schofield Barracks. Isn't that in Hawaii?
Right, yes it is.
Yeah, and he bought some pictures of flowers and sent them to me. You know, isn't it funny what we remember?
Exactly.
Yeah. But it was Harold that the bus used to come down and go down toward the Beale greenhouse, right at that corner. Harold would love to pick me up and whirl me around and around, and I'd be so dizzy, and he thought it was so fun. Yunichi didn't think it was so fun, so
Miyoshi taking care of his little sister.
yeah. I'll never forget how he took off after Harold. Don't you do that anymore. Yeah. So, okay.
So why, when your family moved from Tule Lake to Hart Mountain, was there a reason that they decided to move to Hart Mountain? Did they know people there, or was it just because it was a free choice? You had a
Yeah,
choice.
that's right. Tule Lake was to become the center for the no-no people. And for that reason, we left, because we were yes people. So I don't recall if we had a choice of where to go, because the Yoshida family, you know, Shigeko Yoshida and I used to do Japanese dances together, and her family went to Topaz in Utah. But we went to Hart Mountain, and I don't think we had a choice about where we were going to go. I think they decided for us. So, you know, that was the last time I saw Shigeko, because after that she had her oldest sister, Haruko, was living in Washington, D.C., and Shigeko wanted to go there to be with her sister. And at some point, the sister, Haruko, wrote me a letter to tell me that Shigeko had died from some unknown disease. And I felt real sad about that, because Shigeko and I used to dance together. And Mrs. Nishiori was our dance teacher. And when we were at Tule Lake, they wanted to have a program from different ones in the community. And Mrs. Nishiori, who played the shamisen, said, well, we could have Shigeko Yoshida and Mary Matsuda do a dance. So I remember somebody had a Japanese kimono, and I remember they were dressing me and how hot it was, but we got all dressed up, and I put lipstick on for the first time, and we got up on the stage, and I remember Mama-san saying, now do the very best you can. And I remember looking, and I saw Mama-san, and she said, she went like this. So then I felt like I had her blessing. And then Mrs. Nishiori was sitting on a chair on the stage, and she started to play. And I remember Shigeko and we started our dance. And then this big dust storm came. So Mrs. Nishiori quit and scrambled off the stage, and we did too. And I remember going to our home in one of the barracks, and the wind was blowing and the dust was ghastly. And I got into our home, and I think Mama San and I had a conversation about the dance and that I did well and so forth. That was the last time that Shigeko and I danced, because the next thing that I remember was that just, these dust storms were horrendous. And I remember hiding in the I don't know what you'd call it, the shade away from so the dust was coming this way, and I went behind the barrack, and thinking at that time, but this is probably in retrospect, that was probably going to be the last time I would see Shigeko, and it turned out that that's what it was, because she left for Washington, D.C., where her oldest sister, Haruka, was working, and I never saw Shigeko after that. It's funny what you remember as a child, yeah.
Who were your other good friends from Vashon?
Pardon?
Who were your other good friends from Vashon?
Well, Shigeko Yoshida was my best friend. Haruko Otsuka was another person. Let's see if I can remember. I remember Yuri. Yuri. Gosh, this is going way back. I remember our Japanese language teacher was Ken Yorioka. And I remember a girl by the name of Okubo. They lived...
What was that?
Huh?
What was that last?
Okubo, O-K-U-B-O. They lived not far from, the Cemetery Road. There's the place on Cemetery Road where it dips before it starts to go up. There was a family that lived there, and I think their name was Okubo. Okubo.
They lived their farm was just a little bit to the east of the cemetery, but on the other side of the road. So down Cemetery Road there.
They had a daughter. Seems like she was killed in an auto accident.
Yes, she was.
Was it?
30, yeah, Okubo. Yeah, that's the name.
Oh.
I found a newspaper article about her.
And it's a good thing I still have some part of my memory.
You're doing great.
Oh. So.
And that family moved back to Japan, right?
Yeah, well, I welcome your questions to guide me in what I'm supposed to say.
I wondered because after they disappear, I think, in the 40 census, and so my guess is that they moved back to Japan after their daughter.
The Okubos? Yes.
Is that right?
After their daughter was killed, they said, we've had enough, and they picked up and went to Japan. Mm-hmm. Right, I do remember that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So after the war,
Yeah.
I mean, your family came back to Vashon.
Right.
Mukai's came back.
Right.
Tatsuka's came back. Tok's family
Right.
came back.
Right.
What other families do you remember that came back after the
after the war, you know, I don't have much memory of that because I moved on.
You came back to Vashon for a couple months, right?
That's right. But then, let's see. I think I went to nursing school in Clinton, Iowa. And I think that was the end of my time on Vashon. I would come back for visits, but not to really live anymore. So I don't have much of a memory of life after.
Do you remember the Matsumoto family?
The Matsumoto?
Yes, yeah. Because they, again, just looking at the records,
Yeah.
they didn't indicate when they left the camps that they planned to come back to Vashon, but it looks like they did, because we know Jimmy definitely.
Yes, Jimmy did.
Jimmy was a fixture of Vashon.
Yeah, right.
So, did the
and
rest of the family?
Martha? Martha? Isn't there a Martha? Yes, we were talking about the Matsumoto family.
Right.
Grace became a pharmacist, and she never came back, but she became a pharmacist. And I don't know what happened to Don and Frank and let's see who. There were 3 older boys, Frank, Don. There was another one. Anyway,
Jimmy was the youngest.
Jimmy was the youngest.
Yeah, I think.
Jimmy. Was there a Willie?
There was a Willie.
There was a Willie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you know why Jimmy decided to come back?
No, I don't. But I think I'm just conjecturing here. The 3 older fellas did not come back. And maybe he felt, I'm just conjecturing, maybe he felt some sense of responsibility for the folks. I don't know.
Did they come back to Vashon? The parents?
Who? Who's they?
Jimmy's parents?
Yes.
Richard. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They did. There was a Willie too, as I remember.
Right.
And you know, the 3 older boys, Frank, Don,
I think Willie. I think those are the 3 oldest.
3, and Willie.
I think, and then Jimmy was youngest, I think.
I think there was a younger brother than Jimmy, wasn't there?
Willie was probably.
Willie was the youngest, I think. Yeah. Anyway, it was a large family. There was Martha, let's see, Frank, Don, and then 1 boy, then Martha, Grace, Jimmy, Willie. Have I got that right?
You do. You remember and please forgive my pronunciations here, the Sakai family?
Sakai, Harry, Tilly, Shizu Sakai. Harry and my brother were in the same class. Harry, let's see, Harry, my brother, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, pulling all of this out.
Do you know what happened to them? Because they were a large family.
Yes, they were a very large family. No, I really don't. I don't think my folks were particularly close to them. You know, in the Japanese community, they were cordial to each other. but like my mother really liked Tok Otsuka's mother. It's just interesting. And the Usuis, you have them Usui?
Right, yeah, I have them mixed with Matsumoto.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Mr. Usui was the president of the Japanese Association, and my dad was the secretary-treasurer. And whenever we would have a community meeting, we would meet in that community hall, and it was always my dad, bless his heart, he would either buy a big box of tangerines or something for the kids, soda pop or candy canes. For every community meeting, the men would be off to one side and the women would be off to another.